Justice for immigrants, hot topic in the news and in the church. We'll talk about it today. Stay with us. Welcome, I'm Jack Knight. Today we'll be talking to Sister Hortensia del Villar. She is working with the Office of Justice for Immigrants here in the Diocese of San Bernardino, California. Sister, what better person to be talking about immigration than a person who immigrated here from Mexico a few years ago?
A few years, yes.
What was that like for you? 8 years old, and you're with your family. The rest of your family is in the States.
That's right.
And your father says, let's go. How did you feel about that?
Well, there was a certain excitement, thinking, oh, I'm going to be seeing my cousins in California. It's going to be nice. But then my grandma would be staying behind, and I thought, oh, I'm going to miss my grandma and my cousins here in Tijuana. So it was kind of mixed feelings. Yeah.
When you finally got here, how did those feelings change, if at all?
Well, everything was so new. School was new. I had to make new friends, learn the language. I was very busy, focused on just trying to fit in. And it was exciting also. I had a very good fifth grade teacher and sixth grade teacher who were very welcoming and very nice to us.
Did you go to Catholic school?
No, my parents did not have enough funding for Catholic school, but I did go to a very good school in San Fernando Valley.
When you got here and got acclimated, and how difficult was to get acclimated to the culture switch?
My family, my extended family, was very helpful in the process. We went out to the park. I was able to go to the baseball games. We had different opportunities in school to talk to other children from other countries. So that kind of helped. I felt I was not the only one coming from a different culture, from a different country.
When did that light go on that said, maybe I have a vocation?
Very good question. I was part of a youth group in South Central Los Angeles where we moved after a few years in San Bernardino Valley. In San Fernando Valley. And we were part of the choir. And a few weeks after I began singing in the choir, a Colombian missionary asked us, we need people to help us visit some of our brothers and sisters in juvenile hall. So I said, that is interesting. I would love to do that. So my cousins and myself, we signed up to visit juvenile hall. And it became part of our kind of ministry. Once a month, we used to go to juvenile hall and sing during Mass. And it just moved me to see how thankful the youth were that we were there to visit them and to be with them.
How old were you then?
I was 17 years old, yes.
And that led to another step, and what was that?
Yes, and after that, I remember I used to drive Father used to drive us, and during the journey, he used to ask, Hortensia, you seem to be very interested and very attentive during our ministry. Have you ever thought about being a missionary? And I said, no, in our Mexican family, we grow up, we get married, and we have children and, extended family. But then that left me thinking, and a few years after, I met Sisters of the Guardian Angel who were working in South Central with the youth ministry, and they invited me to a Vocation retreat. And that, you know, during that retreat, I felt a calling, and I asked to go through a process of discernment. And I said, it's a mystery to me, but I want to try. And I tried. I thought it would be kind of my father said, okay, you go ahead and try, but I don't think you're going to last long. You're kind of a rebel, so I don't think, you know, that's going to work out. But it did. And I'm here after, let's see, 28 years.
28 years in your vocation.
Uh-huh.
When you started working, what kind of work were you doing when you took the veil? What came right after that?
Yes, I was doing my work in clinical psychology. So I was working at the Good Shepherd shelter with the sisters of the Good Shepherd. So it was a wonderful opportunity to accompany women and children who were survivors of domestic violence. So I was kind of the intern that used to go and accompany the mothers through individual therapy and group therapy. And I also did some therapy with the children. So that was very inspiring. It was also challenging.
Where were you located then, in Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles, yes.
Yeah.
So after I graduated from my clinical psychology work, I told the sisters that I wanted to go to other countries and serve. I've always been attracted to serving countries like Africa and the Philippines and Central America. I had many friends in college and high school where we shared stories about their own journey in El Salvador, Nicaragua, and the Philippines. So I had the opportunity to go as a missionary to the Philippines in the year 2000, and I was there for 9 years in the south of the Philippines. This is an area where there's some conflict going on with...
Cebu?
This is actually Zamboanga del Sur, where we have the Catholic Christian community and also the Muslim community. Yeah. There's a part in Basilan and Zamboanga where there has been ongoing conflict with the one extremist group there. But we were located in Pagadian, and we were doing work with it was called Sabakan, which means womb. It's a ministry for women and children who are also surviving domestic violence. And
so this was a precursor to the work that you're doing today.
Exactly.
Now, when did the Office of Justice for Immigrants originate in San Bernardino?
Well, actually, I am working in the Office of Community Services and Outreach, and it originated in 1991. And of course, it was with the objective of reaching out to the poor, to the vulnerable, of promoting solidarity and justice in the area of San Bernardino and Riverside. At this point, we are serving 1.7 million Catholics. And working with different groups like Catholic Charities and other community organizing groups. So it's a whole journey of reaching out to our brothers and sisters in the area.
So I would imagine that the large portion of that clientele, I might say, is Hispanic. Is that correct?
Yes. The great majority of our community is Hispanic.
And immigrants as well?
And immigrants, yes, as well. We also have a community of about 250,000 immigrants who are undocumented, and we also journey with them. They have a little bit more of a difficult time because of their status. So we do serve them in terms of their legal needs, and sometimes they need shelter, sometimes they need a way to connect with their family here. So we go through that process with them.
I know you have several services that you offer besides legal. What is the number one problem that you see that immigrant families have?
Yes, these past 2 years, it has been very, very, very painful to see so many families suffer because one of their members has been deported. So we end up having to accompany families that had the experience of a husband being taken, and then the wife is left to fend for herself and her children, and it's difficult. So we connect with different groups to help them with their rent, with food. Also, of course, they need the legal assistance to help the husband, see if there's any possibility to regularize his status so that he will not be deported. We just had a family a few weeks ago where the mother was taken from her home. She was with her 3 daughters. They wanted to take her and the 3 daughters. Thank be to God, there was a neighbor who said, I will take care of the daughters. You don't need to take them. When the husband came back from work, he found out that the wife had been taken, and she has been detained for 7 months. And one of the children came with the father to see me, and as the father was sharing the story, Mary was, some tears came out of her eyes. I mean, she's 6 years old, and she misses her mom very much.
Sure, I imagine this same story goes on and on and on, and you get a whole list of people with the same story. The law, the church, humanity, they have a different idea about how to handle it. And I imagine it's got to be very stressful for people trying to help and coming to a blank wall in a number of places. For you personally, when you hit that place where there doesn't seem to be anything going, that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit more. We'll be back.
There are times we are joyful and happy. There are also times when we are sad and depressed. Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we become angry. Sometimes we are calm and reflective. Yes, we are emotional people. Often we express our emotions loud and clear, but sometimes we suppress and keep them to ourselves. Our wounded emotions need to be healed to enable us to live normally. We want to offer you a book written by Father Martin Padovani, SVD. It is called Healing Wounded Emotions. Father Martin is a marriage counselor, and this book is the result of his many years of experience. Some of the topics he deals with in this book are anger, anger with other people, anger with ourselves, and even anger with God. But what about forgiveness? Forgiveness of someone that has hurt us, and even forgiveness of ourselves. Then there is the emotion of depression. We know that today there are many who are living with the shadow of depression, and they do not know how to get out of it. Father Martin gives practical solutions to deal with our wounded emotions. So get your copy today. Surely you will be doing yourself a favor. Or maybe you know someone who needs a copy.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Know your emotions and live them to the full. This book will surely give you the peace that you are looking for.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to have more with Sister Hortensia del Villar about the problems that immigrants have, particularly Catholics, but not exclusively, coming to the United States and finding the wrong kind of a wall after they get here. Sister, there must be a huge problem trying to figure out what can we do for the most people at this particular time, and how do you deal with trying to sort out from somebody who is in immediate need, someone who's they need something, and others who, they just want to get a little bit advancement, a little bit of help. That must be an emotional drain.
It is, yes. And,
talk about it.
We try to help as many people as we can, and we try not to say no. We always say we will help, but we need time to sort out and to contact our partner agencies. I know when we have a situation of abuse, for example, of domestic violence, we take care of it immediately. We have other cases where somebody needs money for rent, for example, and they have an eviction notice for for a week from now. So then we have more time to work with that person. But as much as possible throughout these 3.5 years that I've been in the Diocese of San Bernardino, we have said, come, we will listen, we will take the intake, and we will try to work with you and help you. And for the most part, that has been possible.
You talked about domestic violence, and I imagine that poverty, need, alcohol, there's all kinds of reasons why that happens.
Right.
You find yourself calling the cops?
Not yet. We haven't. I mean, because usually they are referred when they are already out of the situation
I see.
and they need a place to stay.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So that hasn't happened yet. But we have had, not like a month ago, we had a woman from El Salvador and her child who were referred to us. She entered the United States. She had entered the United States in a regular way, and she was detained in a detention center for 3 months. She was released, and her story was that she had to leave El Salvador because she was living with a husband who was very abusive, and she had reported the case to the authorities in El Salvador, but there was no response. And she had had many incidents where she was almost killed, and she said to herself, I need to leave or I will die, and what will happen to my daughter Fatima? That was very heartbreaking to hear that story. And she said while she was on her journey from El Salvador to the United States, she spent about a month traveling, and her daughter got very sick. And she said, at one moment I thought to myself, what have I done? I escaped death and abuse in El Salvador, but now my daughter is, her sickness is threatening her life. She said at one moment Fatima told her, Mama, don't cry. I've prayed to Mama Mary and it's going to be okay. La Virgencita nos va a acompañar. Our Lady will journey with us. And then she said, I really felt the words of my daughter, like they were coming from Mama Mary. And she said, and now we are here, we are safe, and we are here with you, and we are going to be helped.
I can recall one period of my life, I was on the road, as actors say. And first time I'd been away from family. I could always go back on a weekend from school, and so forth. And I was wearing a rosary around my neck at night. When I'd go to bed, I'd be saying I'd fall asleep. And I'd wake up in the morning, and the rosary would be in 3 or 4 pieces because restlessness during the night and all of that. But when a child has that in their head, that the Blessed Mother is watching over her, did you ever have that kind of thing as a child where there was a saint or the Blessed Mother or God or Jesus was watching over you?
Yes, I always had a very special devotion to our guardian angel. And then it was very interesting when I met the Sisters of the Guardian Angel. I said, oh my goodness, I've never heard about a congregation with this name. So there was a very special connection there. I felt, God's presence in my life.
I was in the 6th grade, and I had done something. To this day, I don't know what it was that had me staying after school for detention.
Oh my goodness.
And Sister Giovanna, I guess she must have forgotten that she had an appointment with another one of the nuns, because when the second nun came in, they started talking, and things changed. And the other nun said, John, my real name,
Oh, okay.
we we've been talking it over, and we decided to let you go early. And I'm sure it was because they had to go do something. But so that you'll be a good boy, I want you to say 3 Hail Marys every day to the Blessed Mother.
Oh, okay.
I still do it.
Look at that. It's wonderful, beautiful.
And it's a comfort.
Mm-hmm.
So prayer must be a big part of your life.
Oh, yes, yes. And as I am sharing with our brothers and sisters in this ministry, I find it to be a prayer in itself, that dialogue, that connection, that listening. As I was listening to Miriam share her story about Fatima, I said, you know what, this child must have gone through so much that she didn't want to go back. And she told her mother, Mother, let's continue. I've prayed to Mama Mary, and we're going to be okay.
And it's interesting that she was called Fatima.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know, at times when we are asked, why do these people make this perilous journey? Why? And it's difficult to answer that question, but I know, having lived in El Salvador, where I witnessed so many deaths of young men, where I attended so many funerals of young men and women who did not want to join the gangs, where at times I had to go around different streets in order to catch the bus because it was not safe to go through certain streets. And I saw so many people living in fear. And I understand why people come. It's not that they want to come, they are forced to come. There's the level of insecurity and violence in El Salvador and Nicaragua and Honduras is just it's terrible. We are not that aware of it. It's not as much in the news now. But it continues to be a threat to the community there. And they have a difficult decision to make. Do I stay here and die or put my family at risk, or do I take this risk and journey up north? It's difficult, and I cannot imagine, I think any mother in different parts of the world who sees her daughter not being safe would make a decision to take a risk in order to have her daughter be safe.
What's a typical day like for you?
In my ministry?
Yes. Well, no, let's go. You wake up in the morning.
Okay.
What happens?
Wake up at 5.
Oh, my goodness.
Have contemplative prayer, take a bath, fix myself. Then I go down for community prayer with my sisters. I live with 4 sisters. 2 from Spain, 1 from Mexico, and 1 from Nicaragua. So we have our community prayer. Then I have my breakfast. Then I get into the car and drive for an hour and 15 minutes from East Los Angeles to San Bernardino. I pray for my companions on the other side. I am going against traffic. They are going into LA. It's terrible traffic. So in that sense, I feel blessed. I'm coming against traffic. So I arrived in San Bernardino about the pastoral center around, I would say, 8:15. So we begin our work at 8:30. If I make it on time at 8, then I am able to attend Mass. Other times we have Mass at 12, so then I'm able to join Mass.
How many
at 12.
clients would you see in a day?
Well, it depends, but we have maybe 1 or 2, and then I also have our meetings with our partners, and that's where we follow up some of our previous cases that we're working on. So yes, it depends.
So I know you're
different
working
groups.
with Catholic Charities.
Yes.
What are some of the others?
We also work with Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice and the ICUC. We work with them in order to organize the community and train the community on how to bring about changes in the community in terms of fair wages, how to improve the education system in San Bernardino and Riverside. So there's work that happens with other organizations that we network with in order to bring about structural changes in the community.
And so one other group would refer to you, you would refer to them.
That's right.
And you working all together
Right,
in a
right.
consortium of groups.
Exactly.
That's good. What would be your greatest success story?
We had a family from Nigeria not long ago. It was the husband, the wife, and Samantha, the baby. She was 8 months old. They came to us because the husband had been taken to detention. He was in the process of being deported, and the wife had also received a notice of deportation.
And you were able to help them?
And it was difficult.
But you did it.
But we did it, and
All right, we're going to
was
drop
wonderful.
off here. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed talking to you
thank
today.
you.
Lord, please help Sister and others like her who are trying to help those who have nowhere else to turn. We ask your blessing on this ministry and those of you who support us. And gosh, maybe I'll come visit and
Please
just
do.
see the work that you're doing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Come back to see us. We'll be here next time.
Thank you.
Bye. This is great.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
There are times we are joyful and happy. There are also times when we are sad and depressed. Sometimes we laugh. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we become angry. Sometimes we are calm and reflective. Yes, we are emotional people. Often we express our emotions loud and clear, but sometimes we suppress and keep them to ourselves. Our wounded emotions need to be healed to enable us to live normally. We want to offer you a book written by Father Martin Padovani, SVD. It is called Healing Wounded Emotions. Father Martin is a marriage counselor, and this book is the result of his many years of experience. Some of the topics he deals with in this book are anger, anger with other people, anger with ourselves, and even anger with God. But what about forgiveness? Forgiveness of someone that has hurt us, and even forgiveness of ourselves. Then there is the emotion of depression. We know that today there are many who are living with the shadow of depression, and they do not know how to get out of it. Father Martin gives practical solutions to deal with our wounded emotions. So get your copy today. Surely you will be doing yourself a favor. Or maybe you know someone who needs a copy.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Know your emotions and live them to the full. This book will surely give you the peace that you are looking for.